The following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers. This is the TFangy coming to you with what will hopefully be a successful review. And tonight we're going to be taking a look at the third box set to be released in the Amazon exclusive Transformers Doom and Legacy United Doom and Destruction Collection. And it is the 2-pack of Ruckus and the G2 version of Bludgeon. So yeah, this is the latest Amazon exclusive 2-pack to be released in the Legacy United line. And for me personally, Ruckus is the selling figure, and I'll explain of this box set. I'll explain why that is in just a moment. Bludgeon was kind of the bonus figure that was thrown in here, and depending on how you look at it, the previous 2-pack from the Doom and Destruction line that had a Voyager and Deluxe class figure, a lot of fans and collectors bought that set for one figure more than the other. But to be honest, I've seen fans who are aware of both versions of these characters be excited for both of them equally. So yeah, there's some box art of the two of them in their robot mode. Ruckus over here is a Generation 1 Transformers character, and this version of Bludgeon is based on his appearance in the Generation 2 comic books, in which his lower jaw was kind of missing, and he had a bunch of wires hanging off of it. It making him look slightly more monstrous, even more so than his Generation 1 counterpart. So yeah, some pretty nice artwork of them. Here you got, on this side of the box, you got an image of Ruckus. On the other side of the box, you got an image of Bludgeon, and there's a close-up of his face from the G2 comics. Around here on the back of the box, you got your product photos. Bludgeon transforms back and forth between his robot mode and his tank mode in 27 steps, and then Ruckus transforms back and forth from his robot mode to his vehicle mode of a Doom buggy in just 9 steps. And both these figures are repaints and retools, just like all the figures that have been released in the Doom and Destruction collection so far. Bludgeon is of course, a repaint with a new head sculpt of the Legacy Generation 1 Bludgeon figure, which itself was a retool of Legacy Tarn. And Ruckus is a extensive retool of Legacy Evolution Beachcomber. So that's pretty nice to see that there. When we get to doing some size comparisons, I apologize, but I couldn't find my Legacy Beachcomber figure, so I won't be able to do a size comparison of Ruckus with his mold mate, but I will bring out some figures in a moment and explain why I believe he's the selling figure of this box set. At least he was for me personally. Yeah, I primarily got this set for Ruckus, with Bludgeon being a bonus figure that just happened to be packaged in the box. So now that we've talked about that, let's hurry and get these guys opened up and take a close look at them in the modes they come packaged in. Alright, and so first up we have the figure that was the one for me personally I was less excited for, and it is the Voyager class version of Bludgeon. This version is basically based off of Bludgeon's appearance in the Transformers Generation 2 comics, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Apart from his paint job, the only difference between this and the Legacy Bludgeon figure that was released individually at mass retail during the Legacy Evolution line last year in 2023, the only thing new is the head sculpt. It's the head sculpt that Bludgeon had in the Transformers Generation 2 comic books, and my camera won't adjust to it, but yeah, it's a pretty monstrous looking face sculpt. It basically looks like Bludgeon had his lower jaw ripped off of his face, and now he's got a bunch of wires dangling down from there. So it is a even more monstrous face than the skeletal face that his Generation 1 version had. His paint job's mostly like this, like olive green and olive yellow. And from what I've seen from Transformers fans and collectors who are aware of the G2 version of Bludgeon, it is a paint job that's accurate to his appearance from the comic books. I wish they would have done more retool parts apart from his face sculpt, just to distinguish him further from the Legacy Evolution G1 Bludgeon figure, but that's just a minor nitpick on my part. Now, this mold, which is the Legacy Tarn mold, this, I believe, is the 4th version of the mold since the second version of Tarn that was released in the Legacy United Target exclusive Versus 4-pack came out before this one did. This figure was released, so even though the mold has now been released 4 times, for me personally, it's always a pain to transform. So I'm not going to transform it on camera for you, but here's just a close-up of the 2 different head sculpts on Legacy Evolution Generation 1 Bludgeon versus Legacy United Do and Destruction G2 Bludgeon. So you've got the skeletal samurai face versus the missing jaw face of Generation 2. And out of both versions of both head sculpts, I'm still leaning towards the G1 head sculpt being my favorite of the two. Ew, but yeah, there's Legacy United Bludgeon next to, kind of sort of next to Legacy Evolution G1 Bludgeon. Again, this mold is a pain for me to transform, so that's why I didn't fully transform Legacy Evolution Bludgeon from alt mode, from out of his alt mode to his robot mode, since that's the mode I had him transformed into before I started recording the review. The weapons are all the same. The sword even has the same sculpt detailing, so pretty much all the orange and gray bits on G1 Bludgeon, they're now olive green and olive yellow here on the G2 version of Bludgeon. And even though this is supposed to be Generation 2 Bludgeon, he does have a Generation 1 Decepticon logo there on his chest. I don't know if he has the Mayhem Attack Squad logo painted on him anywhere. Just my luck, I'll find it later on after I've finished recording the review. But yeah, all the figures that have been released in the Doom and Destruction collection so far did have the Mayhem Attack Squad logo painted on them, painted somewhere on them, but I'm not finding it here on Bludgeon. The only faction symbol I see on him is the Decepticon logo. So, setting Bludgeon off to the side, let's take a look at the figure that, for me personally, is the reason I got this 2-pack, and it is none other than Transformers Generation 1 Ruckus. So yeah, here he is, and even though he's a deluxe class figure, he is quite tall. I'm amazed at how tall Ruckus is. Putting him right here next to Bludgeon, even though I'm holding them up in the air, they're almost standing at the same height as them. And so, yeah, Ruckus is only a head shorter than Bludgeon, and Deluxes typically tend to be smaller than Voyagers like that, so they're almost the same size. There's not much of a size difference, so Ruckus might be one of the largest and bulkiest deluxe class figures that's been released this year. But yeah, he's pretty impressive looking. Like I said, he's a retool of Legacy Evolution Beachcomber. The torso is new, the head sculpt is new. The lower arms, I believe, are new, but the upper arms, where the wheels are attached, and then the wheels themselves, that's the same parts that were used on Beachcomber. The robot mode pelvis is the same. The thighs and upper legs are the same. The wheels, of course, are the same, but the lower legs and the feet are new sculpted detailing. So, yeah, I'd say about 2/3 of the parts used here on Ruckus are brand new sculpting, while 1/3 is recycled from Beachcomber. And unfortunately, just like Legacy Evolution Beachcomber, the tires, just like Transformers Generation 1 action figures, the tires here on Ruckus are made out of rubber, so there is a fear that over time they could end up disintegrating into nothing. Nothing, as you can see right there, there's the proof. There, as you can see, there's the rubber tire as it's sitting on it, so that's very discouraging to know that these tires are made out of rubber instead of plastic. I really wish Hasbro and Takatomi would have gone with plastic wheels since they last longer, but hopefully the tires will at least last some amount of time, and hopefully someone will someday, when Legacy Evolution Beachcomber Homer's tires start to disintegrate, someone will come out with rubber replacement tires. Tires for both Beachcomber and Ruckus. Okay, so yeah, I am not a fan of rubber tires at all. The 2 shoulder cannons that he has on here, you can store them here behind him, so he can have a non-weaponized look. Okay, they can go forward this far, so they're pointing forward all the way. And you can also detach them. They came detached out of the box, so I believe that's a 4mm port that they attach to here. And so if you wanted to just arm up Ruckus even more, you can plug the cannons into his hands, and then they can also act as a pair of laser pistols. it's not wanting to insert on his hand right now, so I apologize for it. So I'm just plug it back in right there. There, so yeah, pretty impressive. Ruckus is a pretty impressive looking Transformers figure, and I just can't get over how enormous of a deluxe class figure he is. Now, even though I don't have Beachcomber, the figure that he's mold mates with, I said that Ruckus was the selling figure from this 2-pack. He was the main reason I got this box set. And the reason why I will explain right now is because for a size comparison, if I can reach them here, I should have put them in. Make sure that they were within arm's reach first, but for a size comparison with some other Transformers action figures, here is Ruckus next to another figure from the Doom and Destruction line. And here he is next to Windsweeper, who came in the Doom and Destruction 2-pack with the Prime version of Breakdown. And for another size comparison, here is from the Legacy Evolution line in 2023, Crankcase, who is a retool of Legacy Year 1 skids. And so this is the reason why I got this box set, and why for me personally Ruckus was the selling figure, is because Ruckus, along with Crankcase and Windsweeper, these three Decepticons were known in the Transformers Generation 1 line as the Triggercons. They basically had the same gimmick, where it was an automated gimmick where if you pushed a button, they had dual cannons that would flip out and deploy in both vehicle mode and robot mode. The spring-activated gimmick has been removed on these new modern figures, but yes, with the release of Ruckus, all three of the Transformers Generation 1 Triggercons have now been given modern-day deluxe class action figures, and so it's really great to finally complete this trio of Decepticons. Just like Bludgeon, I don't see the Doom and Destruction logo anywhere on Ruckus, unlike the figures released, the first two box sets of the Doom and Destruction figures. Windsweeper has his Doom and Destruction logos here on his wings. But yeah, the Mayhem Attack Squad, I kept calling it the Doom and Destruction there for a moment. The Mayhem Attack Squad logo, it's nowhere to be found on Ruckus. He's got 3 Decepticon logos. He's got the big one on his chest, and then he's got, I'm sorry, he only has 2. He's got one on his chest, and then one on what is his right side arm. It ends up upside down in robot mode, but it faces right side up when you transform him into his vehicle mode of a Doom buggy. But yeah, like I said, Ruckus, he's pretty tall and he's pretty bulky. He's depending on how you have their legs displayed, he's the same exact height as Windsweeper, and the Needle Nose figure, while it's not a large deluxe figure, it is a fairly average sized one. It's not short or small like Crankcase is here. Even if I adjust his legs to make him slightly taller. But yeah, it's really nice to see all three of the Trigger Cons reunited or united, depending on how you look at these, at the modern figures of them. But yeah, it's really great to see this trio standing here beside each other. And like most Decepticons from the Generation 1 line, the Trigger Cons do have rivals in the form of the Trigger Bots. But as someone pointed out, lately, when it comes to making modern day figures of the Transformers Generation 1 action figures that either had gimmicks or parts of special teams that had the same gimmick on their Generation 1 action figures, Hasbro and Takara Tomy have been almost exclusively concentrating on modern day figures of the Decepticon characters while forgetting the Autobot characters. So yeah, it's most likely going to be still long time, several more years before we get the Trigger Cons rivals of the Autobot Trigger Bots. But for now, it's nice to finally have this modern day figures of all three of these guys. Like I said this when I reviewed Windsweeper. This is become the first and only action figure of Windsweeper that I have in my Transformers collection. The same is now true for Ruckus. This isn't the first action figure crankcase that I got. I got the original Dark of the Moon figure back in 2011, but I sold it off, so well, it's not my first figure. It's the only one I have of him also. But yeah, it's these guys are all pretty impressive looking. Visually, Crankcase is my favorite of the Trigger Cons due to his mostly black paint job, but since I enjoy blue more often than I do red, Ruckus has now become my second favorite, and even though Windsweeper's my visually, as far as the paint job goes, he's my least favorite of the trio. He does transform into my he does have my favorite alt mode out of all three of these guys. I enjoy Windsweeper's jet mode slightly more than I do Crankcase's SUV. Whether or not I'm going to feel the same about Ruckus and his Doom Buggy is uncertain. I'll have to wait until I transform him. But yeah, there they are. Alright, and also here's Bludgeon once again hanging out in the back. Again, I apologize for not transforming Legacy Evolution Bludgeon into robot mode, but it's late at night, and as soon as I record this review, I'm gonna get some sleep. So, without further delay, let's hurry up and get these guys transformed into their alt modes and wrap up the review. Alright, and so first up here is Bludgeon transformed into his alt mode of a Cybertronian tank. And if you already have the Legacy Evolution Bludgeon figure, you're basically getting Bludgeon with a mostly green paint job instead of mostly orange. I will say this, some of the parts on this figure, from what I can tell, almost all the parts on Bludgeon that are this olive yellow are actually paint, and so, at least on my copy, here on the back of the tank mode, right here on the back, the legs don't want to remain transformed, so I don't know if it's mold degradation or if it's just because one, or if it's just that I mistransformed one of the joints, but yeah, Bludgeon's tank mode doesn't want to stay connected properly, and the reason why I'm disappointed to see that is because um, the two versions of the mold that I've already unboxed and done reviews of so far, Legacy Tarn and Legacy G1 Bludgeon, both those versions of this mold, they didn't have any trouble transforming whatsoever. And I'm noticing now what's having difficulty. What's happening is that all this yellow bits right here on the legs are paint, and it's even painted on the inside. And I'm noticing when I'm plugging the top of the tank turret in, it's wanting to unpeg itself. So, unfortunately, it looks like it's not wanting to. It's too wide a gap for the tank turret to attach. So I don't know how well you're going to see, but if you look in there, the tank turret's sitting in one peg, but when I try to put it down on the other, it doesn't line up. It's too wide a gap. So just be aware here that Bludgeon's tank turret doesn't want to peg into the eggs. The legs are there's too much space between them from that layer of paint. So that is very discouraging to see that the tank turret refuses to plug in place properly. Okay, so at least on my copy, to get the tank turret inserted in, and I have to actually keep the legs split apart. So it is a tad unfortunate that Bludgeon is the figure that in alt mode his alt mode doesn't fully transform entirely. So yeah, that's a bit of a very big letdown seeing that. And for a size comparison, here he is next to as I drop him on camera because Bludgeon is upset that I said that he was just a bonus figure and I originally didn't want to get him, but for a size comparison, here he is next to the Legacy Evolution G1 Bludgeon. So as you can see, the orange parts have been swapped for green on here. I said the head sculpt was the only newly sculpted part, and I forgot the robot mode chest, which becomes the front of the tank turret, is a new part as well. No, but yeah, it's as far as which version of Bludgeon is my favorite of the two, it's still the Legacy Evolution G1 Bludgeon figure, just because of that the layer of paint making the legs too wide to peg in place on the back there. So yeah, my favorite Legacy Bludgeon figure so far is still the G1 Evolution, G1 Orange Bludgeon figure. So yeah, I didn't expect Legacy United G2 Bludgeon to meet my expectations in being a decent Transformers action figure, and unfortunately, so far, that's proven to be correct here. Here he is more of a letdown than his Generation 1 counterpart that was released in the Legacy Evolution line. And probably didn't quite transform one of the joints correctly. And if I did, then unfortunately it could be mold degradation wanting to cause this thing to not transform properly. But yeah, there is a Bludgeon one last time. And bringing in the figure that I think is the selling point, and the reason I got this set here is Ruckus transformed into his alt mode of a dune buggy. Unlike Beachcomber, who transforms into an open-seated dune buggy, Ruckus is a closed-seated dune buggy. He's got glass windows there. Yeah, you're supposed to sit inside of him. He comes with this. Forgot to mention this when he was in robot mode, but the laser gun is the exact same one that came with Beachcomber, and just like Legacy Beachcomber, the laser gun stores here on the front and becomes the front bumper of Ruckus's Doom Buggy mode. Why in the world they didn't just cast the laser gun in black plastic and they instead did it in the same sandy tan plastic as his other laser guns and then made it almost entirely black paint is uncertain. I honestly don't know why they did it that way. I would have preferred they had just made it all black plastic. That way the paint wouldn't scrape off over time. But it's just a gripe that I personally have. And just like his Generation 1 an action figure, the cannons can flip upward or you can keep them pointed down like this. On the Generation 1 figure, the laser guns, when you pushed a button, a spring would cause them to accidentally pop up. I don't know how high of an angle the laser guns had on the original Generation 1 Ruckus action figure, but you can actually spin them around and have them dragging down below the ground. So you can also have them sit pointed here in the back. You can make it look like Ruckus has a set of engine thrusters, so he can now take off like a rocket. So pretty interesting there. One thing to note about Ruckus: when you transform him from robot mode to Doom Buggy mode, it is a pain to get his arms transformed correctly. Because what happens is that there's 3 pegs at 3 different angles you have to line up at the same time to get the arms transformed. The first set of pegs are right there where the arm is attached to the torso, and then there's another peg that the right there where the arm and the backpack connect as well. But then there's another peg right underneath here where the remote hands are located that you also have to line up, and you have to line up all 3 of these pegs at the same time to get the arms transformed. I demonstrate it for you, but I struggled with it a lot to transform it. And then another thing you have to do while you're transforming Ruckus is that you have to get these two panel sections below the robot mode hands in order for these pieces to then fold up and form the bottom of the Doom Buggy. So, yeah, Ruckus is a bit of a nightmare to transform arm, so it's discouraging to know that it's difficult to get him to transform him back and forth, or especially going from robot mode to alt mode. But apart from that, yeah, overall he's a pretty fantastic looking action figure. So unfortunately, one thing Beachcomber has Ruckus beat out still. Ill is having an easier transformation. But overall, I really enjoy how Ruckus turned out. The paint job, where he's mostly blue with tan on the back of him, this is accurate to his Generation 1 action figure. The silver stripings, they were stickers on his original Generation 1 figure. One thing I like that they did is they painted the pile drivers that were on the shins of his robot mode silver, so that's a pretty nice thing there. And then there's that second Decepticon logo I pointed out. In robot mode, it ended up upside down, but here in alt mode, it's right side up. So yeah, overall, Ruckus is a pretty fantastic looking Doom Buggy. And once again, for some size comparisons and vehicle mode, here is Legacy United Ruckus next to his Trigger on buddies. Here is Windsweeper, and here is Crankcase. So, with the release of Ruckus, we now have modern day deluxe class figures of all three of the Trigger Cons. And hopefully, someday in the very near future, their rivals, the Trigger Bots, will be given the chance to get modern day action figures. But considering the fact we still don't have modern day action figures of the Omnibots or any of the Autobot Headmaster Juniors, well, technically we have one in Minerva and Minerva, but even with the double target masters, once Quake is released in Legacy United Wave 4, that'll be all three of the Decepticon double target masters being given modern deluxe figures. The only Autobot double target master that's ever been released was Scoop back in the Generations line in 2014. But yeah, the Decepticon characters, the more obscure G1 Decepticon characters, they are getting action figures at a much quicker rate than the Autobots are. The reason why that is, I honestly couldn't tell you. But it is nice to finally have figures of. It is nice to finally complete the team of Decepticon Triggercons. Here, and overall, they're all pretty impressive looking. Ruckus, he does roll fairly well on a flat surface, but again, just like Beachcomber, his tires are made out of rubber instead of being made out of plastic. I would have preferred they be made out of plastic. So just bear in mind that 15, 20 years from now, even if you're careful, there's a chance that Ruckus's rubber tires could end up disintegrating and he'll end up having to drive around on his rims. But hopefully by then, and someone will have come up with replacement tires for Ruckus and Beachcomber by that time. So it's pretty. So hopefully there'll be people out there who are wanting to be able to design replacement tires on their 3D printers. So yeah, there is Ruckus one more time with Windsweeper and Crankcase. Even though all three of them are repaints and retools of previously released figures, Crankcake is part of the Skids mold. Windsweeper was made from Needle Nose, and Ruckus was made from Beachcomber. Out of all three of them, Ruckus is the one that is the most G1 accurate and can mimic the Triggercon gimmick of having the weapons flip out. You can kind of fake it with Windsweeper if you decide to plug his target masters on the bottom of his fuselage. You can do the barrel slipping out, but again, it's only it's not entirely accessible, and the same thing is true for Crankcase. But at least the designers painted these purple stripes to at least mimic the weapon flip out gimmick here. So I'm starting to lose my train of thought, and I'm struggling finding the words I want to say. So bringing Bludgeon back in. So here is the third and most recent Transformers Legacy United Amazon exclusive Doom and Destruction collection featuring characters that, well, yeah, even if they weren't originally part of the Decepticon Mayhem Attack Squad, they are now with the Legacy United line. So this has been the Transformers Legacy United Amazon exclusive Doom and Destruction, Decepticon Ruckus, and Decepticon Bludgeon 2-pack. And for the final proverbial question of the review, do I recommend getting this 2-pack and adding it to your Transformers collection? I do if you're a fan of the Beachcomber mold, and if you're also a fan of Bludgeon. If you're not a fan, if you're a fan of just one of these molds, or if you're a fan of neither of them, then the set can unfortunately be an easy pass. Because of that difficulty with transforming Ruckus's arms, unfortunately he's now no longer as impressive as he was as at the start of the review before I took him out of the box. But I still enjoy having an action figure of him, because again, the main selling point for Ruckus is that he completes the TriggerCon team with Crankcase and Windsweeper having already been given action figures in this line. The selling point for Bludgeon is that this is his G2 counterpart, not his G1 counterpart like we got in the Legacy Evolution line. And so that's pretty much the motivation for the main reasons to buy this 2-pack, is to have the version of Bludgeon from Generation 2 and to finally have Ruckus complete the trio of Decepticon TriggerCons if you already have Legacy Windsweeper and Crankcase. But even if you didn't, Ruckus being mold mates with Beachcomber, he is a nice evil doppelganger to Beachcomber. And again, I really enjoy the shade of navy blue paint that's predominant here on Ruckus. Because visually for me, the blue and the tan that's used here on him, it's pretty eye-catching to me, and I actually really enjoy it. So yeah, this has been my review of Transformers Legacy United, Doom and Destruction, Ruckus, and Bludgeon 2-pack. I recommend getting this 2-pack if you're a fan of Beachcomber, the TriggerCons, and if you're a fan of Bludgeon. If you aren't a fan of all three of those things at the same time, then this 2-pack can be a pass for you. So, as much as I wanted to have Ruckus in my own Transformers collection personally, unlike the previous two Doom and Destruction sets, this is one I believe is the weakest of the three, since the motivation for Transformers and the collectors to get this, it's not as strong as it was on the first two box sets. But yeah, overall, even though they aren't the greatest figures, they're still pretty decent looking. So I personally recommend getting them. But again, like I said, unfortunately for me, after reviewing and having the figures in hand and seeing how difficult it is to transform both of them, especially Bludgeon not wanting to transform correctly, then these figures unfortunately aren't must-have Transformers action figures. So hopefully they'll be in stock for a long time. If some of you who have decided, no, I don't want to get these guys now, but maybe I'll get them later. Hopefully they'll go on clearance sale during Christmas later this year. So until next time, you guys, this has been the TFN Geek, and this has been my review of Legacy United, Ruckus, and Bludgeon. Again, I recommend getting these guys if you absolutely want to have these figures in your Transformers collection. If not, then by all means, save your money for Transformers action figures that you're really excited for. So until next time, you guys, stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you to all my subscribers and all my friends for your continued support. Until next time, you guys, transform and roll out. Bye, everyone.